Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Mark Parham podcast. You can follow me on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts by just typing in Mark Parham podcast and I should pop up. So, I'm a person that I use Linux. Like, Linux is something where, once you use it, you want to know more. You're sitting up and reading about it and seeing videos and looking at tutorials. Like, Linux is amazing to put on your computer. And the thing I've noticed is that, and I used to be one of these people where so many people will, maybe watch a video on Linux and say, oh, well, it's, too hard to use and all this other stuff. And, you know, I used to be one of those people. And the thing about Linux is once you start, taking some time to actually, read about some things and watch some YouTube videos, it's not as difficult as people think. Like, I think Linux catches a bad, rap or stereotype because a lot of people think, oh, well, it's something where you have to be some computer genius to, or a programmer to put on your computer or laptop. And that's not the case. People don't realize that, once you go on YouTube and just, like I said, watch a video, an installation video, it's not that hard. Like, it's not that hard to install on your computer. And then, like I say, if there's questions you have about Linux, you can also sit up and, use a chat GPT to answer some of your questions, or you can, just go to Google and go do a quick Google search and type in, certain questions you have about commands and things like that, when you're using the terminal. And so I would just say to anybody listening to this, if you're worried about Linux, like, just try. Take some time, and once you install it on your computer, and once you start understanding basic things, it's not as hard as people make it seem. It's not as intimidating as people make it seem. Yes, there are some Linux distributions that are very complicated and hard to install on your computer, but I mean, if you install Ubuntu, like put it Ubuntu, or I think the other one's Kubuntu, on your computer, and then you have Endeavor OS, you have a bunch of Linux distributions that, like I said, in the beginning might require you to read and find out a few things, but once you put them on your computer, they're very easy to install. And I would say that taking that little amount of time to learn how to install Linux on your computer is something that is going to benefit you later on. The cool thing about Linux is that Linux gives you freedom that you would normally have with other, typical operating systems on like Windows or Apple computer. Like, the cool thing about Linux, it gives you so much freedom. Like, you can sit up and choose, different desktop environments. You can use a window manager. Like, there's so many different cool things you can do. You can customize certain things. You can sit up and, add things. You can just do so many cool things with Linux. And when you go and use a Microsoft operating system, or you use an operating system with Apple, you're basically locked into how they want you to use the operating system. Like, you can't make certain configurations. You can't do a lot of things. Like, Linux it's amazing. Like, there's a Reddit, I forget what the Reddit is called, but there was a Reddit, I call it Reddit. There was a Reddit group where it was just Linux users, and people were showing how they were using Void Linux and, using Alpine Linux on their computer and stuff like that. And I was somebody back in the days, I used to spend hours looking at this group on Reddit that was just a bunch of Linux users. Like, it was amazing what they did with their computers, and that made me want to learn more. Like, the cool thing about Linux is once you go down the rabbit hole, you want to learn more, you want to do more with your computer. Like, it's amazing. Like, it's something where you become almost like addicted to finding out more, at least in my opinion. And so, just seeing people use Void Linux and seeing how they were maybe using Void Linux, but they were using maybe a Windows manager with Void Linux, just seeing how people were using Gentoo Linux, seeing how, people were using Alpine Linux. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I was somebody that I used to use what is it, Puppy Linux? I think that's what it's called, where you can put it on your USB stick and basically run your computer. Like those things just amaze me because when you look at Linux, Linux is something where you can get Linux distributions that can almost run on any old computer. Like that's what's cool about it. Like Linux is something where instead of throwing away your computer or sitting up and giving it away and saying, oh well, my computer doesn't work, they actually make distributions that are very lightweight. And one of them that I used was Alpine Linux. Like Alpine Linux was amazing to me because Alpine Linux, you can put it on a computer that's like 20 years old. Like it's very flexible and it just amazing. And so, like I said, I salute all of the people that are behind the scenes that make those distributions possible. Like it's not the easiest thing to do. And you remember, a lot of people do a lot of different things and work on different things with Linux behind the scenes, and they do it for free. Like, so these are people coming up with different things that normally folks would charge you a bunch of money for. I mean, and it's just amazing community. That's the cool thing about Linux. It's a community. I mean, even if you look at, what is it, Kdenlive, if you look at Audacity, like those are different programs and stuff like that, or pieces of software where, those creators that are behind the scenes working on those type of things, and video editors and things like that. Normally a company would say, you know what, let's charge people for that. Like, let's charge money for that. I mean, if that were like Apple or somebody, they would say, you know what, let's, turn this into the next Final Cut Pro and charge people, money to get this on their computer. And so it's a lot of cool things that you can get for free with Linux. And it's amazing, but, it just goes to show you that, sort of people sometimes in technology have, what do they call it? Like a herd mentality or a sheep mentality, because I think that Linux should be more popular than it is. I mean, I know that behind the scenes, a lot of companies use Linux, but Linux should be as popular as, all of these other things. And I think it's gaining more popularity because people are looking at, Microsoft, and they're looking like, okay, I don't want a bunch of software bundled with my computer. Like if you buy Microsoft, they bundle a lot of different software and put a lot of different bloated programs on your computer that you don't want. With Linux, you can install it however you want. Like you can sit up and have it where it's pre-installed with different things and programs and software, or you can have it so it's just like, a blank piece of paper. And so it's just amazing. But if you're an Arch user, you can use EndeavourOS. EndeavourOS is like a distribution that's, just ready once you install it on your computer. Like you don't have to modify it or anything. It's gives you many different options. EndeavourOS is good if you're an Arch Linux user. You can use Arch Linux, duh. And then also, if you're an Arch Linux user, I would recommend Artix Linux. Like on my computer, I have Artix Linux, and you can get the Run It version. You can get the S6 version. You can get the OpenRC version. And Artix Linux is amazing because it really loads up on your computer very fast. Like, no knock to Systemd, but if you put, distribution that has, if you're using a distribution and you can get a Run It version of that distribution, as far as the init system or S6 or OpenRC, it'll load up so much quicker than, just a typical Systemd type of setup, in my opinion. And so on my computer, I have the Run It version of Artix Linux, and it works. Is something where if you understand if you understand Arch Linux, it's basically the same thing. They've tweaked it behind the scenes. They've taken out Systemd and a few things, but I would recommend that too. Now, with Artix Linux, it's not all fancy. Like as soon as you put it on your computer, it's not, it doesn't look all fancy, but you can always go back and customize different things. With EndeavourOS, it's just ready out of the box. It looks beautiful. It's got beautiful screensavers and stuff like that. Artix Linux doesn't have that. It's more stripped down, but you can have the option to customize different things. And so I would just say that if you're curious about Linux, just try it. just try it after the day. If it doesn't work, then you can go back to Microsoft, or if you're using Apple, iOS, or whatever you use, you can go back to those things, but give Linux a try. Like, try it on your computer or on your desktop computer, or if you have an old computer laying around that you want to start using again, just give it a try. And also, don't get frustrated because, in the beginning, there's little things you have to learn just with anything. I think a lot of people in the first 5 minutes, they get all frustrated. It's like, no, take some time, sit down, and watch some YouTube videos. YouTube is a very good place to learn about Linux. I mean, the folks that are Linux users on YouTube, there's tons of them, and they give very good advice, and they teach you a lot of stuff. Like, that's another cool thing about Linux. Linux is a big community that, really cares about Linux. And so, when I've always had questions about things, I'd be like, well, let me watch this YouTube video, or let me find out about this, or let me listen to this podcast. Or there's so many different online resources if you're stuck and don't know, the next thing to do or how to install it on your computer, or if you want to learn different, commands and things like that. And so, like I said, give it a try. Have, YouTube as your guide. Also, you can get a lot of interesting information on Linux. If there's questions you have, use ChatGPT and just give it a try. But you won't be disappointed. And once you have Linux on your computer, it's going to be something where to me, it's going to change your life. Like, just the level of freedom you're going to have. And you're going to be one of those people where you're like, you know what? I want to sit up and learn more about computers and programming and software. Like, it really makes you more interested in technology. And you start to really see the power of technology. I think a lot of times you get on a computer and we don't realize, like, the behind the scenes work that's happening. People are creating stuff. Like, I got to the point where I was sitting up and, looking at different models of ThinkPads and all sorts of stuff. And so, it's something where once you go down the rabbit hole, you start trying to learn about Libre boot and Core boot. Like, it's something where once you start really, getting your feet wet, as they say, and learning, the basics, it'll change your life. It'll change your life, and it might get you more into computers, in my opinion. So in the comment section, let me know how you feel about Linux. But, Linux is not something that should intimidate you. You don't have to be scared to use Linux. In the first 5 minutes, you're not going to know everything, but once you start learning about Linux, it's going to change your life. So that's just my opinion. Give this a like, and then also, comment in the comment section. Thank you.